or, for example, things as social security number.
That's a natural primary key. So you can also make artificial, like a counter and so on.
Okay. Object IDs are often used as primary keys in GIS systems.
So if you have a primary key in one table, you have the foreign key in the other table. And as we said, a foreign key must exist as a primary key in the referring table and also have the same data type. This is very important. They must have the same data type.
So if you want two different tables, if you want to retrieve data from two tables at the same time and mix these data, you have to make sure that you have set up this foreign key in a correct way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see an example of this. Here we have two tables. First you have some persons and when they're born, and the other table is in which country they live in. So in the first table we have the ID as the primary key. In this case it's just a counter, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on. And in the country table we have the ID as a foreign key. As we can see here, they reference each other. So if we take the first row, which with ID 1 in the person table, we can very easily connect it to the country table with the ID of 1 and see that he comes from Sudan. So this is the principle where you connect a primary key value with a foreign key value in a different table. And the most important rule here is that they must have the same data type, because you have to do a comparison between them. They do not have to have the same name as we do here. They're both called ID. But it's a very good idea to keep the same names, because it's much easier to keep track of them.
Okay.
And we also have the index. So what's the purpose of index? Well, it makes queries much faster.
Okay, so if we look in the... We could take an example. I mean, you have a telephone book. The telephone book is ordered in alphabetic order, which means that it's quite fast to find a name.
Yeah.
But one could imagine what would happen if you have a telephone book without any alphabetic order. So if you come to Cairo, that's a city with 10 million people, that would be a huge telephone book, and you have to read one by one. That's
exactly.
That's
because a table in a database have no order whatsoever unless you set an order in the query.
Okay, so that would mean that you really have to go through each row in the table. And
if you don't have an index, yeah.
And that is even a slow process for a modern computer.
That's why it's very important to keep index in the right place. The primary key is automatically indexed. So when you define a primary key in a table, it's also indexed.
We can say that an index is it's not really a part of the original data. It's more an external data that is stored separately from the real data, as in the figure here. And this index data is only used for speeding up the retrieval of the data.
Yeah. As you can see here at the bottom left, here's an illustration. The data set with first name, family name, and so on. This is a table that you can actually see in the database. But when you create an index, it's something that's just used internally, and you will never see this index. You just use it automatically when you search in this table.
Okay. So is it wise to always create an index? Or I mean, it seems to be some extra data you have to both create and also maintain during the...
Exactly. As it says there, an index makes queries faster, but changes to the table is slower. And that's because each time you insert something new or alter something in a table, you have to update the index as well. So it takes a little bit longer to change data when you have a lot of indexes.
So if you are creating a database table, you have to think about, well, should I use this for this type of attribute for any retrieval of data? And if you are going to use it, you should create an index. And that, if you look at the figure to the right, you could create an index if you are using like a graphical program. In this case, it's a map info program, and here you have a small box where it says indexed.
And then it's automatically indexed by the program.
Yeah, this particular attribute. And that's a quite common construct. Of course, it might look a bit differently in different programs, but you should be aware of, you are the one, when you are creating a database, that has to decide whether an index should be created or not.
And that mainly depends on what kind of queries you are expecting to make to the database. Like we said before, all columns have a data type. So what happens if you have nothing to put in a certain column? Let's say a student doesn't take any courses in one table and another one, as I said before.
So you could store a zero value, or...
Yeah.
But perhaps it's...
There's different ways to solve this. You can either